to another, fighting this very extremely complex system of regulation that is made out of thousands of parts. And in order to go from state A to state B, you would have to I mean, some pressure has to be applied to a critical mass, many of these parts, to have the system be able to migrate. Otherwise, it'll be pulled back. Always, it'll be pulled back, right, into its state of equilibrium, or attractor into its attractor. So I have an interest to dive deeper into this, but it's not necessary. It's just that we're scratching our heads about transitions, and this idea, this metaphor came up, and I'm just putting it on a table. But it's up to you guys.
Yeah, I love the homeostasis idea. I think that is when, if I understand it well, when it finds its own dynamic balance at some point. So when I was trying to understand nature,
yeah,
I also went into metabolism. Hey, Florian, how are you, man?
Hey, Hugo, how are you?
Hello.
Hi, thank you. Surviving.
You survived, yeah?
Yeah, I survived, so not
Thank
dead
God.
yet.
It's yeah. I went through this last year. It was tiring. It's a tiring one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It breaks you in parts. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Tiberius, how are you, TB?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Waking
Good to
up,
see
having making my coffee.
Ah, good. Yeah, I'm in the same dynamic. That's cool. And very happy to introduce you to my best friend and founder of Sikana, Gregory, who is here joining us from France. We cannot see you, Greg. Do you have your camera?
Yeah, I just saw the. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah. So Vinicius, I don't know. I'm sorry because I broke maybe the dynamic.
That's fine. We're just starting.
You are just starting. So Greg, just to give you a quick intro, this dynamic we are having on a weekly basis, sometimes bi-weekly, about wealth transfer and all the different acceleration of dynamics and projects that are linked to the peer-to-peer economy, the emerging peer-to-peer economy. And thinking of this idea of wealth transfer through different angles, education, peer-to-peer practice, makers, biomimicry, nature. Hugo, who is here, who is actually, you guys are closer than we are. Hugo is in Belgium and you're in Paris, so you guys are closer. Hugo has been working with biomimicry for the last 15 years, like from a very personal experience, first living with nature and then like developing one after the other different biomimicry projects to dynamize different perspective on how we can apply it to our day-to-day. Sorry, Hugo, I'm not sure if I
totally.
If I may. Vinicius, I think you already know him. Huh? You guys have already met in Rio actually once, I think, back in the years. So you already know. So he's a global explorer.
Yeah. I heard a lot about you, Vinicius. Yeah, you're famous here.
He's a dangerous guy to hang with.
I heard that too.
Tiberius is in Montreal, Quebec, and is you're in Montreal, right, TB? I think it's or you're in Toronto. I don't remember. And has been working with Serenica in the peer-to-peer movement. I think TB, you're the only one who can explain what you do. I'm not able to read transcripts. And Danilo is in Brazil right now, he's in Sao Paulo. We were together actually on the Nile last week. And Danilo is a monk.
No,
So
I'm joking. No, I'm
no,
kidding.
I just try to spend a lot of time on the ashram. And yeah, but I'm not a monk.
Monk to be.
Okay,
Yeah, I
good
was on
to-
mute. I was trying to say yes, I'm from Montreal, Florian. Montréal, Québec, oui.
D'ailleurs, tu parles français, Tibi? Je t'ai jamais demandé.
Ah oui, oui, on parle français ici au Québec.
Ah, ok. Je savais pas que c'est énorme. Ok, perfect. So now I know. Now I know.
Ouais.
Yeah. I love your city, by the way, and really, and so cool. So Vinicius, what are we doing?
Well, are you guys hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were kickstarting our third gathering here, talking about the influence of externalities, about how we're actually organized around production and the economics of production, and how this is not really related to homeostasis in a very peer-to-peer fashion manner, or in a complexity manner as nature as already is. So we were just kickstarting this type of conversation because this is something that is the main, let's say, not the main, one of the main research that TV does, and it's related to what Hugo is very sensible with, right, Hugo? So Hugo was just replying to TV, and if TV wants to make the case again, and we can start it there, it could be the kickstarting points. But it would be nice to hear from you, Florian, and you, Danilo. How was the Nilo River expedition, right?
Yeah. So
and the news. Let's go.
I think it's a good maybe starting point. Actually, and it's really synchronicity, because actually we were having this wealth transfer conversation, and we connected pretty deeply with the free flow organization and movement that is actually using a technology named Threefold, that is actually like that they have been building a grid, so it's similar in lots of sense to these different peer-to-peer grids that are being developed in different places based on internet capacity, so hosting, so storage and computing. And they have already a pretty solid and working product. Like it's already like the nodes are already connected. There is already a chat. You already can use chat, video conferencing, storage. So you have lots of different experience that you can already have on the grid. And actually, like now, what we are looking at is how to accelerate the different peer-to-peer experience that we can build on top of this layer, on this grid, and using the different protocols that have been built in order to host dApps, distributed applications. So based on actually, and Danilo, maybe you can explain again the Igarata Lab dynamic and the acceleration of dApps that we want, that is already happening, and that we want to accelerate in that movement. But in a nutshell, it was a very exciting encounter. Pretty crazy actually to be meeting people from all over the world on the Nile, going up and down the river in the middle of a pandemic. But I think it was very exciting because like people there were actually extremely not only working on the tech, but also a lot on the human and spiritual journey as well. So I think it's very important. And so yeah, I think it was a very good continuity to the conversation we had about how we can map the different experiences and the different dynamic that will be appearing in the peer-to-peer economy movement, in the peer-to-peer economy that is emerging. And I think it's the perfect time to actually put the right values around those projects. And actually that's something that they had not thought so much about. I think that we are more talking about that in that room that they've been talking about forever. But like we need to really think of those projects in a way that we don't make it, we don't produce them with a governance model or with a share or equity model that is reproducing the issues from the past. So like thinking of it of like, I think the best way, and I think Cambiatus team, the marketplace community Cambiatus team, once described it very well, talking about the exit to community, thinking of the exit to community as the goal that we need always to put in those projects. It can be through demurrage, through a negative interest rate based on the shares you have of a project that goes down a long time, just as a way of that being spread within the people, energizing roles or being part of the network. And I think like one of the discussion that we had during the week that actually really and actually the person who used that language in this room last time was Danilo, talking about us and like wealth in the eye of the quality of the node that you are for the network. So not being being a good node, meaning like being able to connect and to be a node that is actually spreading energy, spreading knowledge, spreading wealth in the network, right? So I think in this sense, I think the fact of thinking of like, and we've been talking about holochain in the previous session, but threefold is the same. It's a different approach, but to the same problem. I think this idea of like being able to think of in such a tangible way of us being a node in the system and us being able to spread that wealth around us through knowledge, through water. I would even say like if we want to connect to the material world, because I know TB you will talk after about production. If we want to be able to connect those things, we need to redefine lots of paradigm. And I think there will be a very important learning curve, because actually like most of the people are not thinking of those paradigms, but we need to break them like and to rethink of those different paradigms in order to have people building projects in this peer-to-peer, in this emerging peer-to-peer economy in a way that is actually like able to thrive and not to reproduce the same issues from the past, right? So lots of discussion happened on like there about that. And also I think it's important to share here the one of the things that have been developed is a free flow ID. So like your unique ID on the grid. And the fact of having a unique ID is enabling to have a human-centric or community-centric approach. And instead of having like a messenger in Facebook, a messenger in Signal, in Telegram, in like in WhatsApp, and like we're all getting Zoom, like whatever, like we're all getting crazy with this abundance of like, and because of our multiple entities and identities on the web. And I think they kind of figured out a solution pretty nicely, and so it's this part was also an exciting part of the conversation of how like we can have a unique free flow ID. We call it free flow. The free flow ID is kind of your digital avatar where you can actually then have the different experiences. And so yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's it. And on the more spiritual part of the journey, like I had never been in Egypt. I'd studied it a bit, but not much, and it was pretty amazing to see that actually the connection that they had so long ago with spirituality, with energy, through the symbol of the ankh, this little symbol of the tree of life was pretty inspiring. So Danilo, I give you the floor.
Yeah, for me, it was a very interesting experience because we met people that otherwise would be very difficult to meet. So basically, I felt there was a lot of ecosystems connecting, and that ecosystem that would not have connection otherwise in an open space like that was proposed on the threefold. So one thing that I really want to do here now is to continue to create these open spaces where more and more ecosystems, because when we talk about people, we are looking at that person and the whole ecosystem that person is part of. So when people who would usually not meet each other, I see as an ecosystem meeting, like a bridge connecting two different ecosystems. So I think these open spaces are super, like they have incredible results, and the Egypt trip itself was this experience of that, like how when you connect different ecosystems, a lot of things can happen. And as Florian was saying, I think there was a lot of tech things involved, but I think the most important part was that everyone was aligned in the human level, in the sense of, okay, that the conscious part is also as important, because basically is the conscious experience from one way or another that brought us to talk about the things that we are talking right now. We were on the tech, and what brought us out of this system was some kind of conscious experience. So if we want to bring people to where we are right now, the only way we can do is through the path that we went through, right? Like we cannot guide them to something that we have never done. We can try, but it will be a mess. And in that sense, that's why everyone agreed on how, okay, the product itself, it's important, but it have to have a conscious experience as well. So our goal is not to just create something new, but is to allow people to experience something different, and through that experience come to the realizations that each of us are having in different ways, which basically is expansion of consciousness. We're seeing things from a different perspective. And so a lot of things happened. A lot of things are ongoing right now. We are working a lot on creating these developing dApps, but not for the sake of developing dApps for itself, but developing dApps in a different way, in a way that people interact in a different way, where the equity is distributed in a different way, where the values is different. So from the outside world, we might see a lot of things that we are doing, not all of them, but some things that you might think, okay, they're just doing the same thing as other groups of guys or developing tech, but our difference is that we are trying to do it in a different way, in a different paradigm, from a different paradigm. So it's been interesting how much things are being done at the same time after we came back from Egypt. And this is I think the first day that I have only less than 5 meetings. This is the first day since we came back, because we are all involved in all these different co-creational process. And just like this map have a lot of nodes already, when we're co-creating a lot of things, especially when we are in the beginning stage, I think we get involved in many different nodes, because in the end we become the bridge between a lot of them. So I hope that soon I will not have to be so present, but right now we are developing a lot of things. We are working on a lot of projects. Some projects don't talk to another ones, but I think that's the idea of permaculture, right? To have all this diversity and allow people to flow from one place to another.
Yeah.
And so the Egypt trip itself was very eye-opening. It allowed us to see things in a very in a more, I wouldn't say different way, but with a deeper perspective, because basically we're seeing the same things but from a deeper realization. And right now there are so many things going on in Brazil. If any of you guys are interested in knowing about or want to get involved in any of these, like there are at least 7 to 8 projects ongoing, and you can ask, and we are open, because that's the way we're doing. We're open on allowing people to flow and to join and to contribute and basically choose what they're interested in and doing what they're interested in, and not just doing whatever is asked. So
yeah. And Tiberius, actually, like it was what's very exciting is actually the conversation we had about being able to use internet capacity investment, like this idea of like using the crypto mania against itself by actually using the big rain here in Rio. The fact of connecting this was actually exactly what we were expecting, like to be able to find a way of like using the acceleration of those projects and of the token linked to those projects to accelerate the financing of those peer-to-peer economy projects, right? So in a certain way, actually, it's a predation of the cryptomania by the peer-to-peer economy in terms of relationship. Like, so it's interesting. I just wanted to make Greg, I think it's cool that you're here. Maybe if you, that would be cool if you can give us a bit of perspective we cannot see you actually, of your experience with because I know we had so many times this conversation about technology and about how to use it in a different way for like knowledge, and I think like we're getting to a point where it's gonna have interesting interaction with children of Mekong, with Sikana, with production of knowledge content, because actually like all this infrastructure will be enabling to make a great access to knowledge for people.
Yeah, thank you, Florian and Daniel. A few years ago, I created Sikana, and Florian helped me a lot to build that project. The purpose was to gather as many contributors as we can. So there was a purpose of quantity, but also quality, as many good contributors as we can. So we tried to team up with the best NGOs, brands, engaged citizens, translators, actors, filmmakers, gather all those people around one purpose to improve the daily life of as many people as we can through simple videos. So we start shooting videos from well-known experts regarding health, sports, environment, DIY, and so on. And we try to build a Wikipedia on how to live a good, balanced, and fruitful life through simple videos. And we were quite ambitious at that time, and it was because during the first 3 years when Sikana was built, we raised as a pure donation 7 million euro from corporates, and we raise also maybe 7 or 10 million euro from contribution from the community. And they give their time, and they give their knowledge, and they give their expertise, and they give their talents regarding filmmaking and so on. And we shoot during 6 years 2,300 videos, and we dubbed all those videos in 10 languages. So anyone who got access to an internet connection can know how to get better home, or to get better life, or to get better health through simple videos. And after a few years, we struggle. Why? Because we try to get money from to build a community around the project and build engage contributors, and we fail during that mission because we were so focused on producing content that we became a farm an industry to produce the content. So we didn't treat well our volunteers. We didn't create paths of engagement. We didn't create events so everybody can join and meet and participate and get inspired and learn from each other. So we go from a very inspirational project of everybody building together a kind of Wikipedia, new generation of Wikipedia with good masterclass from around the world with top expertise accessible for free, to a traditional model where we were producing like an industry content. So it failed. No, it doesn't fail actually. We could continue in that way, but that wasn't the proper way. So Sikana right now, the old Sikana 2014-2020 was 2,300 videos dubbed in 10 languages, accessible anywhere for free on YouTube, on Sikana and other platforms. Everything is in Creative Commons. And so far, 4 billion people, 4 billion views. Our videos have been watched 4 billion times, and we have millions of subscribers. But right now we are nearly in depth. Like we didn't find any balance, and we still have 40.
And now we all actually it's interesting actually to I think to explain that actually like the servers and the cost of hosting of Sikana participated in killing the project. That now that we have depths in terms of hosting, while actually this system of nodes will have allowed for people to host the knowledge instead of having Iguan solutions or whatever hosting it and like billing it.
Yes. So we still have these trends. Sikana has mobilized 100 big NGOs and federation, like their world-class renowned for their expertise, and they can reach millions of people into the field who really need help. So we partner with the Red Cross or other institution. And I met with Jimmy Wales from Wikipedia and all those guys, and they were very enthusiastic about the project. But right now, we decided that the project can go further using the old way. So Sikana is shifting to a traditional model where we try to mobilize partners and contributors and so on, and sometimes give them some rewards, to another model where contributors can get a fair return on impact or return on investment or return on satisfaction when they create something for the project. So my point right now is Sikana 2.0 or will be focused on child development. How do we help the next generation to flourish well and to lead a fruitful life? Basically focusing on 8 essential, the mental health, physical health, emotional health. We gather the best NGOs, best experts. They provide their expertise for free, and it's accessible to anyone. And my main purpose through that project is not giving content. My main purpose is to build a community, so we can first inspire the contributors, then engage the contributors and gather the contributors so they know each other and they feel part of a community. The third challenge is to train the contributors, so they not only gather through drinks or on the internet or meet new friends, but also they can grow as an individual And the fourth pillar is to engage those contributors and to maximize the level of contribution, so they can so their contribution is as fruitful as we can. So I'm very glad to meet you, because I'm deeply focused since maybe 2 years on those community building strategies, and how to not only how to reward the people, because reward is one thing when you build a community. For me, there are other pillars, like how do you inspire, how do you gather, how do you train, how do you engage, and how do you reward those people, and all those 5 elements are key to build a healthy community. And my point is that a community is like a living organism. For you, Hugo, we work on biomimicry. Like the natural way of for a plant or for an individual of growing is just it's just natural to grow. So the point is not how to grow. The point is how do we stop an individual or an organization to grow? What blocks this organization? And that's also another challenge for me to get inspired by new technologies or new people who get the expertise we've got to build healthy people in healthy communities, so they can naturally flow and remove the roadblocks and the blocks that avoid those organizations or those communities to grow. That's it.
Very cool.
Hey guys, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It would be nice to hear, of course, a little bit to Tibi about all this sharing that you and Danilo made about the Nile River expedition, and the impressions that they had around Sikana proposal, and how this can be aligned with all the things that we're doing here, right? So feel free, Chibi.
Well, I don't know much about threefold, and it's my fault because I had to study it. But what I can commit to is analyze this initiative from an economic perspective through the peer-to-peer or commons-based peer production grid that we created, and come up with some results. So in essence, do an X-ray of this community ecosystem and perhaps a company in the middle somewhere, and share it with the group, right? So I hear about your experience, and it's pretty nice. I want to see the fundamentals, like the bare bones of this you know, the organization that instigated this new technology. So I can pronounce myself more than that. Yeah.
And I think it would be good to that it goes through your eyes, and let me be like it's something interesting actually, because I think they are very pragmatic in a way. I think they are very open-minded in the change. So like they've been doing things in a certain way, but I'm sure like if we come up with good suggestions, they will be always very happy to follow them. The tech is open source, open code. Threefold tech, they have a Threefold tech company that is kind of like the one serving the foundation and serving the, like doing the maintenance of the grid and stuff like that. And again, I think the intention, what's the most important part is that the intention is in the right place. So then things can evolve, things can move, things can change, but the intention is the right one. I think they have no, in a certain way, it was a bit different than other, maybe some other projects, in the sense that they have this idea of balance between resilience and efficiency, that instead of having like the vision that everything needs to be like for instance, that things can be organized as a DAO as the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But in the building, sometimes you need to use some dirty code, no, a bit, I would say, but just like, you know, some ways of getting through it. But I'm sure that actually, like, Christoph, with the founder, one of the founders and the team, like they would be super open to make things evolve in a direction that is that we can help create actually and think about. So yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice also to if Daniel can share some links to some of these projects that he's involved in, and I can scan that a little bit and see if there's some connections with
yeah,
what we do.
so
Also, we yes.
oh, okay.
Go ahead.
No, I first wants to hear everything.
Yeah, well, you could probably share these links within our like group email associated with the event in the calendar. And also wanted to say that we submitted a proposal to Holochain. And I know that initially there was a good reaction from some people in the core group. But since then, I don't know what's going on in the core group. It's kind of mysterious because there's very little activity that comes out of that in the more in the public view. So I'm asking people around to understand, like, what are they doing, what are they working on, or are they working on something or not. But it would be nice to explore to see what other people, other communities, or other ecosystems would how would they react to this proposal, which is in essence to build this, to build and scale this digital environment in which Sensoric operates, right? Taking all the experience that we have and projecting it to a much larger scale.
I think the like Olo, we've been in touch with. I've been in touch with Arthur Brock, with Jean-François, and like the team. For what I understood, because like at some point we analyzed if it was a possibility for Utopia, and for Utopia, and actually, like, I think the model that they were building on was not appropriate for what actually we're trying to achieve, and there were not very strong interest into like necessarily like developing things with us, I think. So we kind of we could not actually move forward with that.
About the projects that Tiberius asked, there are a few projects that are ongoing, but none of them have a proper website because they're basically a group of friends or some people who said, I want to do this. And then we say, okay, let's do it. And then we start doing. So, and that's how most of them started. There's no proper website. I have a little presentation of Igarata Labs, but I did it just for myself to organize the idea, which I can share. But if I had to say some ongoing projects, one is an NFT marketplace that we're building to create community on the crypto space based on soccer players, Brazilian soccer players and Brazilian artists. Another project that is ongoing is that we are developing this decentralized exchange. It's a more of a fork than we were developing from start on the Polygon network, with a layer 2 solution. And the idea is that if we can, through an exchange and some other dApps that we're going to build on Polygon, we become a connector of developers, of creators, and of community overall, because an exchange is like a hub where people come and exchange. So we have the exchange, we have the chart system that will be used to see the token prices and things like that, and also the launch pad. So we are building products that brings people together. and the idea is that once we can create a medium-sized or even a small-sized nice hub, then we will have we will have access to all these different ecosystems. So there's the DEX, there's the NFT marketplace. There is we are partnering with Ethics Hub. It's a blockchain solution for helping farmers, coffee farmers specifically, to get loans, because today there is a big the intermediary gets like all the money, and the farmers are basically almost like slave work, like in a sense. And by connecting farmers to end buyers and connecting farmers to loans, or to access to capital in a much lower interest rate, we allow them to become more independent. And we are partnering with Ethics Hub. We are helping them model their new tokenomics. And also we're going to start a proof of concept with Brazilian farmers, and they will be loaning, is that right? Loaning 50,000 US dollars, which it is not huge, but for Brazil, like, we'll be able to finance a lot of farmers. They say that on Mexico, they need around $1,000 per farmer. So if that's the rate, we'll be already helping 50 coffee farmers here in Brazil. So we are already closed the agreement, and it's just in the process of making. So there's the NFT, there is the DEX, then there is the Utopia and Tion, which are dApps. Today they are apps that will become dApps, and basically the whole idea behind them is that they are exit to community projects, and they also incentivize people to ecosystem tokenization on actions that brings value. So Tion is for meditation, Utopia is for learning. They are very similar, and this is being developed. And another one that is ongoing is now we are having all this partnership with Threefold. So we are helping them in the sense of community building, like marketing, and even building their strategic approach, and also creating the first community here in Brazil. We will build a few nodes, and we are willing to even give out nodes for free for those who are willing to be part of, to co-create something different in the idea of the flow, right? Like everything in Igarata is from the perspective of flow. And when we talk about flow, like we talked about, is not only about monetary wealth, but knowledge, access, people, and all that. So, and besides all these dApps that are being developed, we are already organizing Igarata camps, which is basically we will invite 4 to 5 friends who wants to learn Solidity or who wants to learn about blockchain. Say, okay, let's get together on a house and we learn together. So I have 1 or 2 mentors of Solidity that will be able to help us. If there are more mentors for this that we call Igarata camps, that would definitely help, because we want to at least twice a month gather, or at least create this open space where people will be able to join, meet each other, co-create and learn. And for that, the space is easy to get. The people, interested people, it's also, there are a few already. It would be more about the mentors. And I think this is it for now. I think those are the projects that are ongoing. So basically, what would help in this process is if we have a senior Web3 developers, that would definitely help, because a lot of, for example, for the DEX, there's Atus and there's a senior Web2 developer, and he's mentoring Atus. The idea on each project is to always have someone, like people learning. So we always put someone who doesn't know much about the development. And today we have more students than mentors. So on all the dApps, all the other things, having a senior Solidity or Web3 developer can definitely help, because he will be as a mentor and also helping the project. And for the Igarata camp, if there's any specific skills or things that people would like to share, we can arrange that, make a specific meeting on this specific time where these young developers or young people are gathered together. The idea later is to do hackathons and to do bigger things, but for now it's just call 5 friends, we get a house, we go there, we study together, we call some people that might be able to teach us something, and that's the weekend. So these are the ongoing, but everything aligned with the idea of flow. The Igarata Labs have 3 pillars. Number 1 is flow, and flow I think we all talked about here, because accumulation is something natural for even the nature itself. Like this is something that someone said on the threefold conference, that like even the chakra systems, like the energy flow systems, they are in vortexes, so it's natural to have some sort of accumulation. But the problem is that when it doesn't flow back, so just like water or anything that gets stuck, it becomes sick. Like even water, which is the source of life, if it gets stuck and doesn't flow, it becomes deadly, it becomes poison. So we focus on flow. And the second thing is that what is the most important skill to learn on this century, which is a century where, or this era where is an era that everything changes all the time, is learning how to learn. So the process of learning is something that will happen in every project. Like everything that people are involved, we will have some kind of learning in that. Like we want to have this idea of learning how to learn something as from like a cultural thing for those who are involved in the Igarata Labs. And the third thing is to service to those who we are developing the products, and also service for those who are part of our team. Like for example, a leader should see his team as people who he needs to serve. And today I was talking to my guru, and he was saying that like things that everyone should do, there are 3 things, but he only remembered 2. He said he's gonna tell me the third one later, but it's charity and sacrifice. He says that charity and sacrifice have the potential of even cleaning the heart of wise people. So even wise people, as they do more charity and they do sacrifices, which is related to flow, basically. What is flow? We call it charity today. We call it sacrifice today. That's the name that we give to flow. But allowing things to flow is the people who benefits the most. It's the one who is allowing it to flow. So I thought this was very interesting and very aligned with the idea of service. And sacrifice and charity is a strong word, but if you see, it's basically allowing it to flow, nothing more. Like so those are the things that are ongoing. Anyone is open to join in any way, to help in any way, or even propose projects so that the community that is being built can work on. Like if you have projects that you would like to develop, or if you have projects that you think you could involve from people from the Brazilian community so that they can learn, that would be amazing. For example, for ethics.
So and complementing on what Danilo is saying, we're going to work quickly on the landing page for that, on something that we can share, so we can attract more and more people to help developing. Like it's not it's Igarata Lab is something for the world. Like the idea is to develop Utopia on it, develop TIO on it, develop any project that is actually like that we can accelerate, and where we can like gather people learning and sharing and attaching resource to it. Like Danilo is a currency magician, right? He knows how to make the flow going even in that space using tokens, etc. And the idea is for people to connect to the different initiatives existing and use system like Gitcoin for quadratic funding, but having a real system inside of it so that every project that is being financed is able to give back to Igarata, so Igarata can finance again the project with people giving access to resources, right? So we need to gather people, we need to gather talents, we need to gather more and more people into that dynamic and that movement, because actually like this DAP lab, this incubator, I don't like the word incubator, but that DAP lab and that Igarata thing is about accelerating the peer-to-peer economy through development of dApps, through development of projects that are based on Web3. So it totally connects in a very tangible way with that wealth transfer that we're talking about.
Yeah,
so if you know great devs, Hugo, Greg, Tiberius, if you know people that want maybe to connect with that, we will send shortly a description. So like if you know people that may be interested in participating, they can also connect and help developing the projects.
Yeah, are you guys hearing me? Because my internet access here is very unstable.
Very well.
Yeah, okay. Well, I want really to hear Hugo about this, and of course, reply from Chibi. But related to Chibi and all his research and all things about Sensorica and community of practice is very nice, guys, to understand that what we call, let's say, in the common space, in the peer-to-peer paradigm space, peer-to-peer economy is not so flowable. Doesn't have all this fluidity that we're talking here about. Folks organize around platforms, organize around coups, right? And they call this peer-to-peer. Okay, it's a peer-to-peer, but it has a pre-design. It's pre-designed, and it's not emerging. It's not an emerging phenomenon, let's say. So this is something that TB knows what I'm talking here about, and it would be nice if TB that is have a very attentive eye to this, to expose a little bit for the guys here, because when we talk about commons and peer-to-peer paradigm, we don't have all this fluidity that we're talking here about. We have some boundaries, we have some ways of doing it. Let's say it's not so open. It doesn't feel so open to merge, let's say, to interconnect with another initiatives. And I think this is the main thing here for the P2P world, let's say, nowadays. Would you agree with me, Taibi? And it would be nice to hear Hugo, because I think Hugo comes with a very fresh, not only biomimicry look of it, but how to relate all of this talk here with nature, with the complexity of nature. That's the thing we're talking here as wealth transfer as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Let's go.
When we're talking about fluidity and how things flow, there is the part of fluidity within the peer-to-peer paradigm. And I'm very surprised because for the past 6 months, I'm very conscious about using a tactic. And every time I connect to some groups, I propose that. What I propose, I call it a formal bridge. You could look at what we're doing here like an informal bridge, which is a repetitive connection between different communities, and we establish some flows. But at some point, let's say, everybody at this point in time transfers to Vinny the role of facilitator, okay? And if tomorrow he disappears, then this informal bridge between these communities might go with him. And I am in contact with many other communities, and every time I see that there is a strong synergy on some level with Sensorica, I go on their forum and say, oh, this project and our project is very, very similar. We could gain, we can be in a win-win situation if we collaborate more. Let's build a formal bridge. And then I explain what the formal bridge is. And I get no response. So that's my experience and my frustration for the past 6 months. Either people are not understanding, or they're caught into their work, or they don't care. They don't see the importance. But I get absolutely no response to my requests to build a formal bridge. Okay, and for me, a formal bridge between these silos, that's how we start to make things a bit more fluid. Okay, because like Vinny was saying, we call it peer-to-peer, but we're on these platforms, on these servers, and we're locked in. We're not interoperable, and we only rely on informal bridges. Okay, and so the next step we can go is to link somehow. Okay, one of the examples that I give is, well, let's share some Google folders. Everybody's on Google. You know, everybody uses Google Docs. One of the simplest thing we can do is to share a folder or two among two communities. So now content becomes visible automatically. It doesn't matter if the person is there or not. You know, once you establish that formal bridge and it gave access to each one to this information, it's there. Okay, that's a formal bridge. It's something that is enabled by some type of technology and is permanent. Okay, and surfaces information. Either you want it or not. Either you search for it or not. At some point, you're going to stumble on something, or you're going to get a pop-up, or you're going to get a notification that something changed, right? You can establish formal bridges at the level of communication channels. You can share communication channels. You know, there's many, many ways we can establish these formal bridges, and it's radio silence. Nobody gets it, or maybe nobody is interested in doing that. That's one thing. The other thing of flows, which I think it's important, and it goes back to the metaphor of metamorphosis, is the flows between our peer-to-peer economy and the mainstream economy. These flows are very important because most of the energy is captured by the current economy in terms of attention, focused attention, in terms of capital, you know, property regimes of assets that we use. They're all, you know, they're all within that mainstream economy. So if we want to have some flow of resources and attention and talent and all that, we need to build bridges. And this is where, this is a very interesting challenge, because it's more complex than talking to our peers in the peer-to-peer world the same language and say, guys, we need to establish some formal bridges. Now you have to talk across paradigm. Okay, you have to talk to business managers. You have to talk to politicians, to city mayors, you know, to establish some type of formal relationships with these commons-based peer production peer-to-peer initiatives. And just for example, this project that we have, which is to build some food processing device, okay, for the third world that could be used in cases of disaster. We are building an ecosystem, and we're in the middle of an outreach campaign, and we're calling universities, we're calling NGOs, we're calling governments, we're calling companies, private companies that engage in that manufacture equipment for food processing, and we're calling companies that manufacture food. Okay, so this is a food processor, and it's mainly designed to deal with agricultural products, so plants as food sources. So there's a lot of new companies now that specialize in, you know, plant-based protein, vegan food, and all that. So you need some type of machines if you want to do that kind of stuff at least at the village level, right? And not necessarily at an industrial level, but have a machine that you can build a business around, some co-op, some association, whatever. So we're talking to these companies and to these organizations, and we come with our own value proposition, which is to say, we're not building a product. as a commodity. This is not a market commodity. It's not going to be sold and bought like anything else. This is a do-it-yourself, okay? It's an open source / do-it-yourself thing. And we have a different dissemination tactic. It's not a market type dissemination. The product doesn't spread by selling it. The product spreads by adoption. People in different villages across the world, they see the use, and then they gather the local skills, they buy the parts, they put it together. It's almost like a 3D printer, right? You don't have to buy it necessarily. You can find it as a commodity, but you can also do it yourself. So it's that kind of dissemination model. So we're talking to these organizations, but we're outside of their paradigm because they're looking like, where's the IP? Where's the product? You know, how are you gonna? What is your value capturing mechanism? How are you gonna make money with this? You know, and why we're talking to these people? Because a company can give us can deploy engineers to work with us on this project. An NGO can connect us with many organizations on the ground that would be users of this device. Universities, they can give us students to work on this thing, right? And although they do respond to the purpose of the project, wow, this is cool, good. It addresses food security, okay? So they respond to that. But when it comes to hard economic incentives, when we talk to the companies that would deploy an engineer, they're actually running away because they're not understanding the value proposition. They think, oh, it's open source. So then you're a competitor. So then you want to destroy my market. Why should I help you? You know, not understanding that things are much more complex than that, and they actually have something to gain that they don't see. So we have a problem of translation here, okay, of the model, and a problem of explaining them what would be their benefit that they absolutely don't see. And because we have that problem of translation and understanding, things don't flow. Okay, we don't have these engineers, we don't get the students, and we don't get the funding. I mean, we will eventually, because we're on the right path and I see it coming. But it's pretty hard, okay? You have to be a master, you have to be an artist to build these relationships in a very strategic way and advance your value proposition as you add more and more momentum to that. So we think we know how to do that, and we're doing it, right? We're very close to jump to the next level of this project. But what I'm trying to say here is just to show you an example of how things don't flow in the peer-to-peer world and how things don't flow between the peer-to-peer world and the mainstream economy, which is very important, right? And yeah, so to go back to homeostasis before Hugo could say something here. You know, this homeostatic system, these millions of microprocesses that are aligned up together to hold the system in place in its like state of equilibrium, we can see these forces, okay? We can see the engineer in the company saying, wow, this is very interesting project. As a human being, I would jump on it. But then not being able to publicly express that or to sell that to his company because the company is an environment. It's its own living organism. And if that guy pushes too much, the people above him that don't understand that, the guy gets fired, okay? Or it gets ridiculed, or so you can see how these responses from people within the main system, sometimes on an individual basis, it's a positive response. And then you see all these influences from their own environment that pulls them back to save their careers, not to jeopardize their position. The company, the same thing. What are my shareholders going to say if they see that we engage in an open source project? You know, like these guys, they want to open source the product that we sell, you know, so how are, you know, so there is this web of relationships. And what we're realizing is even if the individuals get it on because they share values, okay, they're trapped by the forces that are put on them, okay, to bring them back to their place, to discipline them into playing the role they're supposed to play in their particular context, okay? So they self-censor, they do not carry over, you know what I'm saying? They camouflage their excitement or activities. It's a little bit the same thing that happens with the fake news and people that go and have like opinions that are not in the mainstream and they get attacked. You know, the same type of kind of peer pressure, external forces, this homeostatic system around that just keeps you in place. You know, you have a tag, you have a role, play that role, and don't try to get out of line too much. Don't try to you know, explore wide and wild ideas, because you're taking a risk and you might, you know, derail the operation here. See what I'm saying?
Can I share something?
That was
because I will have to leave soon.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of making bridges. I think that's how we will actually allow things to actually flow. And I think like on these bridges, we can share like things that we are doing, things that there's opportunity for help, and things that we can offer, you know, like basically to allow people know and exchange things through these bridges. I think once you build a bridge, is you have to specify all things that could flow. But I love the idea of the bridge. I think we should definitely build it. And yeah, the rest was too smart for me to understand from first time. I still have to digest it, and just wanted to share because
that's why we, Danilo, that's why we record this call so we can listen to it twice.
Okay.
I'm doing the same.
I will have to go now because today I'm in the ashram and I'm here helping mostly in the ashram. So hope it's okay for everyone. Can you see me or no?
Yeah. Now we can see you. No, now we can see your desk.
Okay. Then I'll be going now.
Cool.
And I'll catch up with everything.
Ugo, I really wanted to hear your perspective from this.
Yeah, thank you. So I think Tiberius started with a very nice idea on homeostasis, and what I'm hearing is that it is this part of market homeostasis, the one that is always taking us back to the same old way. So when I hear homeostasis, I'm also thinking about how we can become this conscious node of bringing a different kind of homeostasis, because the market homeostasis doesn't mean that it is a good homeostasis for the rest of the planet. So what I wanted to share also with Tiberius, because he asked in the email about enhancing the conversation of nature. So let me just put a full screen together. So you're familiar with this by now, right, Tiberius? So this is the way that when I studied wealth transfer, this is the way that I see nature's economy works, which is just about energy exchanges. And when we see energy exchanges, then we have to understand what kind of energy. And it is just very basic, but I still think that the economic perspective should be moving into wealth transfer, as you are saying, and wealth transfer should be understanding what energy is. So energy sometimes is just a spiritual side. It is not always tangible. So I struggle a lot when we want to put everything in a technological part. Although if we want to understand, then we have also to include other beings in the conversation, because we happen to be very often just thinking in like a human-centered design. And And this is what is, for me, one of the main mistakes, because although we would like to live as the only species in the planet, we're still interdependent. So we need the ecosystems to be healthy if we want to nourish it from them. So whether you are healthy and wealthy in a monetary way, if you have not nature to eat from, then we are kind of screwed. So then let me put into the metabolism that I think I wasn't able to explain it very well last time. Oh, there is something happening there.
I can see it.
Yeah, but I can't. So I'm just trying to. Okay, here. It's going back. So maybe if I share it and I open another window. So metabolism, for me, the way that I understand it, I think it's very linked with homeostasis. Homeostasis is already the state, right? Like when you find homeostasis, you find the state. But when I was trying to understand how metabolism work, I think we should take care about so as I explained, I started with energy. And then I realized that, for example, a tree or our body is in an homeostatic state, but it is a material that holds energy. So when you have a tree, then you see that it is just a structure that is holding energy in a way. So you have energy in a transition way, and you have energy in bodies or in organisms. So the whole equation on this metabolism is how we consume and how we convert this energy and materials. So right now we are behaving in the wrong way. So we are over consuming or converting for something very stupid, like just building trash to burn it afterwards. For example, this is the biggest waste of energy that we can put, because we are not just polluting, but also taking energy that was there for about billion years, and now we have just a plastic bag, for example. So getting back to being an organism inside an ecosystem, how can we actually make sense of all these connections? So what came to my mind while you were talking about being a node as well, Florian, it is that actually, if we are here, if we are this human, let's say any of us, we are part of an ecosystem and we share with other organisms. We are consuming and converting energy and materials. So somehow, if we can understand in one way or another, the way that we are using the energy and consuming, I think that is a big leap. And this is where I think technology should take us, because like sharing stories is just great. But if, for example, having the internet capacity there is great, but if for having the internet capacity, we are going to consume resources and we're going to move or just extract more, then it doesn't make so much sense to me. Like, we are talking a lot about technology, but we are not talking about materials. We are not talking about energy. We are talking mainly about money. And we are not talking either about other organisms or our place in an ecosystem. The other day, when even Danilo was saying that he could move water from one place to another if is needed. And I think we need to make it a conscious experience to know that everything is in its own place. So we should stop moving things from one place to another and trying to make sense of what we have there and living with the means that are there. Of course, when you say that, it sounds completely crazy, because we have all this economic system or economic machinery. And even in Europe, for example, before, if you were a shaman, then they were burning you alive. And so it put you in rule again. But if we're talking about a conscious experience and a deeper connection, then intention matters. And And building the reality aligned with the context should be critical for our success. If we keep building all these things just as a human meaningful flow, it's going to be super tough to anyway catch up later on if we don't protect the resources that we have. So for me, when I think about peer-to-peer, I'm also thinking about how to honor the flamingo nation, how to honor the elephant nation, whom I share the planet with. And I'm kind of sad to never listen these kind of things in our conversations, because it seems like we believe that technology could save us, but without taking into account that water is the thread of life, that other organisms are living there, that it is not just about the economy, but actually about energy. It seems very difficult to me that we can reach something else. So maybe, and that was coming from here, like maybe with the structure that we already have, we can put together some kind of a stories that gives voice also to, let's say, indigenous knowledge, that gives voice to other organisms. Today I was talking with a girl that she's Dutch, and she knows how to speak with animals. So what do they have to tell us? What do the shamans would like to teach us? And what if we are not the smartest in the room, right? Maybe we need to revisit again the mother tree concept, and how the mother tree, it is spreading resources all over the place, and how a healthy ecosystem works because of its connections. But it is not just connecting one organism, they're actually building on the top of each other. So I was also talking about mycelium, Tiberius, and something that I learned that might be really illustrative is that plants, they didn't have roots in the beginning. They were more volatile until they developed somehow a relationship with the mycorrhiza, so the mycelium, and they started to hook on each other. So coevolutionary process works towards collaboration, and it builds one membrane after the other. So let's say we have this mycelium, and then the plants came, and then now we cannot take out of the plants of the whole chain, because they are so positive for the ecosystem in many ways. So the next species, so insects or maybe humans, I don't exactly know like the evolutionary process, but let's say mammals, they built on the top of the plants and on the top of what it was existing. And we seem to be building just for the future, but not building on what it was there before. So unless we can use the technology to add value to whatever is there without extracting all the value and killing it, we are committing the same mistake than in the economy. So Florian, you were thinking about like not committing the same mistakes of the old economy, but unless we take into account that we live in a living context, it seems very difficult to not to commit the same mistakes, because everything will be just between boys conversation, you know. And the lack of experience that we have as a species should put us in our place. For example, what is happening with bacteria? How do they take decisions? How do they have they survived over time, since they've been here for a longer time than us? And it is not just trees and animals, but bacteria. So unless we can understand and share this knowledge, I think it seems to me very difficult to get to a safe port, as we like to call it. So this is my addition, but I'm not trying to bring noise. I think if we bring this idea of meaningful flow, and we build bridges by sharing unique ideas in multiple languages, all the things that you have already done, but trying to create this cultural evolution, I think it matters. And it matters the way that we share things, but it matters that we acknowledge that we are not on our own here, that there are other species that, if we commit the same mistake, for example, of colonization, we thought that indigenous people, they were stupid, and we killed them, until we realized that actually they were like Egyptians or any other culture, they were super intelligent. So the same is happening with the trees. We are killing the source before even understanding it. how can we use technology for enhancing life instead of just killing each other? So thank you, guys.
It was a intense closing for for meeting.
Thank you, Hugo. It was amazing. You should write a book.
Thank you, man. But I'm just sharing what I can.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for today. I think we run out of time. So thank you, thank you, Vinicius, for hosting us.
Yeah, just want to say that if we're talking really about a really meaningful wealth transfer, not only transfer but redefining what is wealth in a very life-centric way, as Hugo put it, where we are not the main player, we're just one of the millions of players, let's say, agents of this complexity of the nature of the planet. I think that we can really make these bridges, as TB put it, in informal or formal ways, and we can really thrive, right? Thrive in a sense that people won't get to this proposal here, to this the flow of this initiative, armed, right? Armed with their preconceptions, armed with their way of thinking, armed of how can they can profit of it, or how can they partnership with it, right? I think that we're talking here is to let it go in a very complex, nature-driven way. And this is an experience for all of us, isn't it? Because right now, all of us are sitting in structures that are human-centric, driven by an economy focused on a material economy, right? That extracts, explores the planet, right? So I agree totally with Hugo, and I think that we're doing our first steps, our baby steps towards that. I don't know if you guys agree with it, but that's the way I see it, and it's nice to have experience already running, right, occurring, and I'm really pleased to see that these conversations are really thrilled, are really profound, and we are not really only here because we want to make something showable for others, let's say. We're really open ourselves to do this in a very meaningful and profound way, right? So that's it. That's my closing remarks. And if TB wants to say something, or even Gregory or Florian, we can call it up.
Well, I just wanted to crystallize this idea here, because I think would be a pity just to close like that prematurely, because this is, like towards the end of the meeting, I think we crystallized something. And I want to go just briefly back to Hugo's idea of symbiotic relationships, where the mycelium and the roots or the plant co-evolve together, and for us to realize that there is a process. When two living organisms meet for the first time, there might be some level of compatibility, and based on that level of compatibility, they can start to co-evolve and increase that symbiotic relationship. And co-evolving that process means that every party modifies its internal structure to be able to receive and give more effectively. Okay, and when we're talking about formal bridges, are these end state where every organization in the peer-to-peer world has built these receptors and has created these internal processes to establish these flows between the other nodes, right? Between the other communities. So it's a process, and the process is co-evolution. That goes towards increased symbiotic relationship, right? And I just wanted to crystallize that idea of a process, so Centorica through me met you guys, and we're having these informal, encounters, discussions, and we're realizing that there is a base here on which we could build, but we haven't co-evolved yet. Receptors and mechanisms, internal mechanisms, so that the symbiotic relationship becomes stronger and stronger. For now, the link is very weak. I just want us to realize that we are in a process.
Yeah, and maybe for some species it took million years as well of process to get there.
I wish I could live a million years.
Yeah, and I wish that we also understand that we are part of a bigger process than our own lifetime. So we might be building things for the next one coming, and that will be part of our duty. So we don't have to see everything all the time as a result, but I think it's a given opportunity for humanity to be conscious of what will be the next membrane that you want to establish. And in that we can participate every day in the present. And I completely agree that it might take a lot, or it is just a process that we don't know exactly. We are just starting this process. But if we are all conscious, then I think it's a better way to look together, right? Than just not having an idea that we can do this. And this is the opportunity that it is in front of us as humanity in the present time with technology like internet, and how can we take advantage of sharing this time with our bodies, dimensional bodies every day, so we can make the difference. I don't know if I'm gonna live in the next 3 days, man, as I didn't know if I was going to survive the COVID because it's so tiring. But as far as we are around, we can still try to make the difference. And this is something that I like from this group, that let's give it a try. Let's just push forward and let's make the difference as far as we can go. Who knows how long are we gonna be around?
Good.
Arro.
That was nice. Till next week, man. Guys, let's go.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.